It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
And I think it's interesting, right? So you guys did, I believe it was the largest study of millionaires ever done, right? And so you have some really unique perspective on what makes them tick. How do they do the things that they do? And so I'm curious to hear from you guys, what are some of the mistakes when people are like starting out on their wealth building journey, when they start at the very beginning, aspiring to be a millionaire? What are some of the big mistakes that you guys see them make?
So in that millionaire study, we found that 97% of millionaires believed they controlled their financial destiny, which was amazing because it starts with belief. And most people out there, a mistake they make is they don't believe it's possible for them. They've put themselves in this bucket of, well, that's for rich people. That's for people who grew up on the other side of the tracks. And what I found is I was that guy. And I thought, that's for rich people. Until I actually started doing this stuff, the Ramsey 7 baby steps that we've been teaching, and it changed everything for me. And once you stop trying to play the game of the system and stop trying to do 17 things at once, you know, as we take calls on the Ramsey Show, people call in, they're going, well, I'm trying to pay off some debt, I'm trying to invest, I'm trying to save for my kids' college, and I don't feel like I'm making traction in any of these areas. So focused intensity over time, that's what we've been teaching for 30 years now, and that is what works.
Yeah, the millionaire study you referred to was actually birthed from Tom Stanley.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom's Millionaire Next Door book, I was a big fan as well, and he and I became friends while he was living. His daughter Sarah is now a friend as well, and they do wonderful research still, their organization does on this. And the big knock on the Millionaire Next Door book was the sample size was 750, which those of us that know statistics know that is actually statistically significant, meaning that the conclusions are accurate from the book, but he got trashed. You know, he got, you can't, that guy, he didn't really study anybody. So when we set out to do it, we said, all right, not because we needed to ensure the quality of the data, but just from a PR standpoint, we're going to do 10x. We'll do 7,500. And we got carried away, and it ended up being 10,167 that we ended up actually doing the detailed, in-depth study with these millionaires and really getting into their heads, getting into their hearts, getting into their demographic, where they come from, so that you can figure out, what is duplicatable for a guy that grows up like me in Antioch, Tennessee, right? I mean, blue collar, white collar, lower white collar neighborhood, right? But starting with nothing, how do you become a millionaire? I knew I had done it twice because I was so stupid I lost it all, and then come back. But what we wanted to do is to give the hope from the data that somebody listening, somebody watching could do this. And the good news is that we found about what Tom found back in 1992. There were some nuanced differences, but not a ton. And we went further into stuff like the belief factor. He didn't really get into that believing you can matters. I mean, the old Henry Ford thing, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so that's why we get so angry about people out there, the noises in the marketplace that tell people they can't, that, all wealth is inherited. Well, that's actually statistically not true. It doesn't. So, the biggest mistakes we see people make is if they believe the game is rigged, then they go into Stupidville on some kind of get-rich-quick crap. They look for a shortcut. They look for a corner to cut. And what that does is it sets back their wealth-building journey. You get to start over, right? Because you screw up.
Well, I thought it was interesting. In your most recent book, you talk about building wealth the right way. But I also want to make sure that I put an exclamation point on something you just shared, Dave and George, because this is something we repeat often. Is there so much noise about wealth creation that it's worth repeating, because I actually wrote down the numbers, because I love how consistent it all works out. If you look at the Millionaire Next Door, they found 80%. Everybody's heard the 80% of millionaires are first generation. But if you look at what Sarah came back and did more research on her father's work, she found that number was from 1892. She went all the way back to 1892. That number was 84%. You guys, you just referenced your research. It was around 79%. And then we do our own wealth survey. Now, it's not your numbers. It's only a few hundred of our clients that are actually millionaires. Our number came in at 76%. Yeah. So there is without a doubt, all the people who are trying to put the mindset, and that's what y'all were just talking about was so important, don't get that out of your head, because that's what's going to keep you away from the journey of building success. I did want to kind of I wanted to flip this upside down a little bit because we kind of talk about wealth building in two ways. We talk about you're building wealth, but then once you get to wealth, there's a whole struggle with keeping wealth. In your most recent book, Dave, you were talking about how lottery winners, NFL players, we're two Atlanta boys originally, so when you started talking about Andre Rison and so forth, it really touched a chord with us. What are some of the mistakes you see people on keeping wealth too? Because that's a mindset as well.
Well, sometimes the way they got the wealth was not slow and gradual. And if it wasn't slow and gradual, there's oftentimes, there's a higher probability that you're going to screw it up. So the people that, get a big signing bonus and go in the NFL, the people that are 21 years old and they get a record deal and they get $10 million, the people that are win the lottery, they have a higher probability of losing it.
Just based on the way they got it.
Because they didn't have to, it wasn't habits that would cause them, it wasn't habits that built the wealth, and those same habits are the habits that will cause you to keep the wealth. Instead, it was a flash in the pan, it was a one-time thing. And it's not duplicatable. It's not repeatable. The system that they use to get wealth is not repeatable statistically.
Sure.
It was a flash in the pan, it was lightning in a jar, whatever you want to call it, right? But and since it's not repeatable, then they'll go back to that well, and that'll cause them to lose it. Instead of going, but if you gradually build it in your 401k and you pay off your house and the stuff that we found, kind of boring stuff, it's not real sexy, but those steady habits of churning, grinding over a long period of time and consistency, those steady flow of habits are the same habits that cause you to keep it that allowed you to build it.
Right.
And that's what we end up finding, because they're not out chasing the stars somewhere and then fall over a cliff.
So not forgetting the thing that got them there. So a lot of times we see wealthy people, they think they have to get more complicated or more sophisticated, or they have to get into the next deal or the next difficult thing. You're saying that's not actually the key. The key is to dance with the one that brung you, to continue to do the things that have been tried and true through time, not get lost in, I think, George, you said, the noise of the rest of the financial world trying to convince you otherwise. Am I hearing that right?
The one thing that we do find, and I found it over all these years of just talking with people on an analog basis, not necessarily a huge number of pieces, just one-on-one like you guys are doing in your firm, is they feel Millionaire builds $2 million net worth, $3 million net worth, gradual compound interest and steady investing. They feel like they are ignorant. They feel like they didn't know the secret that somebody else knew. And they think there's some double backflip family trust limited partnership thing that they don't know about that they're supposed to. They feel inept.
Yep.
And yet they're the ones that have a higher net worth than the goober that's trying to talk them into doing something stupid. And so I tell them, look, just rest in the confidence that you're the one that got you here. And if you'll just stick with you, you're going to be okay.